How do I defend my factory against enemy attacks is one of the most commonly asked new player questions in Factorio. If your aim is smooth progression through the game, I can confidently say the most commonly given answers are misguided, and even the question itself is wrong. You do not defend, you attack and don't allow them to attack. Enemy attacks can happen for a couple of different reasons. Anything they perceive as a threat within a moderate range, and that includes the engineer, will provoke an attack, but just any generic building such as assemblers will not trigger them. Slap down a turret though, and it's another story. These types of run-ins are easy to avoid though, and enemies just want to clear out the area and not go attack the rest of your factory. The primary reason for enemy attacks, and the one that is worth changing your strategy for, is pollution reaching enemy bases. For whatever reason, they're just not a big fan of air so thick you can see it. In this example, we can periodically see the pollution moving into the area of the enemy base and then vanishing. They're absorbing it, but that comes at a price. This biter spawner's info panel tells us that for every 4 pollution it absorbs, it's going to contribute a small biter to nearby attacks. I can't emphasize strongly enough that this is the only way these attacks happen. Attack groups only form in response to pollution reaching spawners, and each group waits a random period of time from 1 to 10 minutes before attacking. A second biter just joined the fun at a rally point a bit away from their base. The variable time that's allowed for an attack group to form means that some attacks will be much larger than others. It's fairly unpredictable. By far though, the biggest takeaway from this process is we're just a lot better off if we don't let our pollution reach the bases to begin with, and then they don't attack us. A much less elegant solution is simply divide and conquer. Trigger the attack group while it's forming, and then pick them off in pieces. Another essential concept to understand is evolution. You can see it by hovering over an enemy spawner, but I recommend pressing the tilde key to open the console. \evolution will give you the current value and the 3 components of it: time, pollution, and spawner kills. In the long run, the impact of time will actually be quite minor. Pollution and spawner kills will definitely overtake it, and you have quite a bit of control over how much those add to evolution. The evolution value itself starts the game at 0.0 and gradually gets closer to 1 without ever reaching it. Evolution never decreases, but the closer it is to 1, the less that is added to it. At 0.5, the rate of increase is a quarter less than it is at 0. At 0.7, that rate of increase is down to 50%, etc. The most noticeable impact of evolution is just having to deal with stronger and stronger versions of the enemies you face. As an example, here's the entry for the biters, 4 tiers. We've already seen the small one. At 0.2 evolution, you'll start to see medium biters, 0.5 big ones, 0.9 behemoths, although we won't reach that level of evolution in this run. There are similar breakpoints for the other enemies. Expansion frequency also increases with evolution. Every 4 minutes to an hour, somewhere on the map, an enemy base will send out a group to make a new base. The higher evolution is, the more often that happens, and the larger and more powerful the resulting base will be. Spawner health also increases with evolution, making them tougher to destroy. That's a balanced change in 2.0. The method I recommend for dealing with enemies can be seen here. This is my endgame save from the 1.1 series. There are no walls, turrets, or other defenses of any kind. Radar coverage extends beyond the pollution cloud around not only the main factory, but also the mining outposts. There's a buffer zone between the pollution cloud and where the enemies are. No resources are used building defenses, dealing with enemy attacks, time to move the defenses every time you've got to expand the factory. Periodic cleanings of expansions around the perimeter every hour or 2 is all that's required. For this approach to be most effective, it's critical to keep pollution to a reasonable minimum. A key technology for doing this is upgrading furnaces as soon as possible, first to steel and then to electric. Efficiency modules are vital also. If we check out some nearby mining, efficiency modules in all of those as well, reducing the energy requirement, but more importantly, reducing the pollution produced. Efficiency again in the assembling machines. While electric furnaces and modules are not available until the mid-game, it's useful to know where we're headed. Cleaner forms of power are also important. Everyone starts with steam power, but I recommend switching to solar power as quickly as possible. Going nuclear later is entirely optional and doesn't help the pollution picture. Overall, steam ends up being a very small percent of the total power used. This is what I call the lean and green approach, and when we look at the pollution section of the production graph, we can see a dramatic impact. While some early game advances help, when you get to the middle game you can drop the pollution off a cliff rather than continuing to escalate it upwards. Furnaces are a particularly clear example. Here's the pollution generated early game from our steel ones. Electric furnace pollution is barely worth even mentioning in comparison. Frankly, reducing pollution in this manner makes dealing with the enemies almost trivial. Just swat them aside if they're being annoying and go back to the main thing, which is building your factory. It should be clear now why reducing pollution is always going to be our #1 research priority. Methods for clearing out the enemy bases depends on the stage of the game, and we'll discuss those as they come up. We've learned enough here to move on to the jumpstart phase. If it's been helpful to you, please hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below with your thoughts.